So this is our lesson on cloth, and we're also going to do some leather work. And then we're going to have a tile lesson and woodwork too. So let's go to the cloth. Just look at what they look like and then render them. So let's look at a simple modern kind of cloth here. So as you see, it's a very kind of simple everyday thing. So I mixed him on the fall off. So I wanted to get a kind of a dimming effect. So let's just see how it looks like on our object. Okay, so our texture summed area. And our noise and bump here. And our mixed kind of fabric here that we have in the diffuse. This one's speckle looks like a bunch of dots. So it's a map that's used to soften the influence that we have by fabric. Okay, noise. Okay, let's so now we've done this. Let's just see what we've done. So the balls is available for download in the Time Digital group, and we had some people playing around with the ball. So and this is the ball we are getting here. So you can use any kind of cloth for this material. So we need some noise on the bump here, as you see. So it's a bit of a bump that gives us some kind of a line on the cloth. It looks a bit kind of used, kind of it was pushed upon into something, kind of rubbed. So we got a bit of dimming, but I wouldn't recommend dimming all that much because you can get an effect where you're lacking texture. Like you'll see, as you see here, there's a bit of a problem. So this is so you can use any map on the diffuse. And those parts used on the diffuse. So if you like everything, you can just use the standard map or work it up in Photoshop. Okay, we have some rubs there that give us an effect. This is a real cloth. And the bump kind of outlines that moment. So the speckle and noise aren't all that big. but we won't set speckle to a very low parameter because it will give you a wrong bump. So let's go a bit further and try to make a simple velour. So I have this nice texture here. And this kind of here on the diffuse. Okay, I'll press the Fresnel here. Okay, make it green. Big green. So it can't have a white dimming. That's why I'll give this color. Okay, and you have the bump. It's pretty much the same as we have in the materials, but it's a bit different though. And it's used for bump. So it does look nice. It has that kind of velour feel to it. The texture itself looks like a very soft material. You can get the emotion that you can just take and feel it. So let's have a look how it goes. So you don't want any kind of stitches on your texture. So the so sometimes these maps here, they can be stitchless, but usually you have to Photoshop it a bit. So let's get to the next material. It's this kind of thing here. It's a glossy base and a kind of a glancy drawing. You can get them through the mix. I made it to one materials through the V-Ray blend. So I have two materials connected. Fabric gold here, this map. And what do we have next? This one, cloth. Let's start dimming cloth here. It dims along the angle of the view, dependent on. And the other is a regular material, but with no dimming effect. So these white things here, I didn't want it to have a fall off dimming. So that's what I've done to get this effect. So this, I think here should look like cloth, and the other should also look like cloth without attributes. Okay, let's see how reflect works. So let's try using another map that has a bit less of these gray things here. Has a better specular look to it. Okay, glossy here. Okay, both the gloss and it's on. It has a blend reflection. It has a bump to it. Has a normal map to it. Okay, and an image here. So I wanted to get a black thing here. So I don't want the kind of rough effect on the white, but I want to be slightly more texturized on the other colors. So I just put it on and let's see what we get. So you can use a bit of displace instead of the bump, but usually this parameters here is enough. So bump is usually enough and you don't really have to do the displace. So in order to get more of a drawing here, you just have to, okay. So you don't really get this texturized effect here. Okay, let's go to raw lighten. The material's fully white, but we don't have any light on it. So as you see, we have the bump effect here. It's a lot more kind of pushed out. So by this, with this function, you can just kind of check if the bump effect, the texture effects, and of your picture. So raw lighting is rather nice. So this is a reflex map here. It completely controls our reflexes. It just shows us, and where we have the reflection, it has a lighter color. Let's go to specular here. Okay. Okay, and this is the material we are getting. Okay, there's quite a lot of different cloths here, classical cloths. So what you should okay, you should avoid the tiling. And if you want to have better reflections, get the same glossy. I didn't really have a strict reference, I just had an approximate material. And did it according to a particular picture. So I didn't really have much of a reference, so I did this from my mind. But when you'll be doing it, you're gonna have a reference. So let's go further on. Okay. So it's gonna be the Atlas material. But here we mix two cloths. The purple one and the normal material that doesn't need dimming. And they are mixed along their maps. I made it a bit brighter when clicking enable map. So this is the mix I've got here. So 85, 80 here. Bump here. Okay, blue here. And the lower part, it get kind of okay, and it's used for speculars. It has this kind of rough feel to it. Okay, Atlas. Finally to the Atlas. Okay, it has the settings, has the fall off, it has the 2 wards away value, has the dimming. So that's the curve, and we're going to demonstrate how this parameters work. Okay. Here we have a light decline into a different color in some places, and then it goes back to another kind of color. So as you see, how you can see right here how the color changes. So let's check what effect it gives us. It has Fresnel reflection here. Fell off to Fresnel. Okay, it has this blackened here, and it's a bit yellowish here. Okay, since Atlas does reflect the color of the cloth, this seems to be about it. As you see, the blick is kind of curved. This is due to the anisotropic reflections turned on. So it has a reflect math going. And we have these glossiness set this way here. Okay. So this is what happens if you turn the anisotropy down. So I just turns it on a bit. Okay. And just some more parameters here adjusting. And just turned it along 10 degrees. And we got this nice effect. Okay. We won't be rendering all of it because we got the main idea. Okay. So some of the effects are achieved in the material through reflex, but this is how we're imitating the material here. And it looks much like the Atlas we look at. So it has slot diffuse here. Let's turn on a bit of glossy. And just turn it a bit. So let's turn on, let's look at other materials that we have to do today. So let's do the same we did before. Okay. This made just a bit brighter here, and the mixes are a bit different now. So it's a lot darker here, a much darker effect. So let's try this out here. And this is, as you see, we get this curve of color shift. Okay, fell off reflection here. And you have the card here. It's also a stitchless map that gives us this kind of texture rough texture to the cloth. And okay, and this one gets in mix too. This is for making more complex textured reflections. And they are under 95 to 5% mix. So 13 here. from the upper, and the rest is just a gray color. And the lower map is slightly more bright. Surface. Personal effects are a bit different. And you got the curve here. Okay, and just moved. Okay, and we got the glossy map. And we used it on our reflections. Mixed it. And we got the 15 here. And we got the factory here. Gloss here. And we got this bump here. Noise here. Okay. We just got this metal. So we're getting a feel. And we're getting this kind of thread effect. Okay, noise here, and 65 from here. And we made a fabric bump over there. Did much from fabric map. And I did a bit less from the noise. So this seems about it for this material. So let's just looking how it looks. And just look at the particularities of this particular material here. So here, the diffuse, we're getting a black material. Okay, reflection. Let's turn on the reflection. And you're getting all this from the reflexes. So it's a very complex kind of reflex done. And this is the second map we have. And it is and as you see, it looks like how this curve kind of looks. As you see on the very edge, you have a bigger value for the reflections. You have the speculars. So here in the after using all of the maps, we have this very complex reflex bump. And we have this very interesting true looking material. And this material looks like Atlas 2. You can, of course, change it. So let's try looking at our next material. It is rather complex. It's a kind of material you can use on your best sheet. So I turned on some refract here. So I wanted to get the effect of some see-through cotton cloth. So this is how it looks, slightly bright. So it looks uh, brighted out, and it looks kind of mashed. And I have the same map on the bump. So let's try having a look. If you're going to have this kind of cloth in your own project, so you have a big kind of uh, piece of cloth on your sheet, you can make it more complex. You can make it more complex through bump, which will give you a kind of um, a meshed effect, kind of an effect that it's been pulled or stretched or doesn't lie right, isn't lying very straightly. And let's add some noise to give it a bit more feel. So mix, put it here, and take this mix from there, and just pull it over here. Okay. Okay, 50 here, 35 here, and just 50 here. And just take a look. So are we getting more bump now? So let's go with V-Ray lighting. And now we did get some more, but it did make our material more complex, and it gave us this effect of a kind of a not a very accurate, not a very super straight sheet effect. So you can get this kind of material done in this way. Okay, so you can make it slide. Okay. So let's just put it here. So let's put some hair here, some displacement mode. Okay, let's just find out what we have here. So we have a diffuse here. It has a map on it. We have a non-stitch map, like this. Kind of like a knitted one. It has 3 and 2 in its settings, 3.2, 006. Some area filtration. Okay, it has a Fresnel here. Okay. Normal map. Okay. It hasn't so much reflection here. So, wool doesn't have much of a factor kind of thing. So we'll just use this map here. So I'll use the noise that I have in speckle. So wool here. And I use the second map there. One more, that is. As you see, it kind of reminds you. And I mixed it by 50. And mixed it with the noise too. And then I made the normal map. Okay, here. Made a copy. Made an instance. Made a slot here. Made an instance map. I made a will displace. Will 1, 2. This is the way it looks. Let's set 2 millimeters to the value. So, okay, here. So we're just making the quality better, the smaller this value here, and the subdips you can put them a bit up to enhance the quality. Okay, so you can okay, if it's just check it out. So if you have a normal map going on, the normal map work is just very important here. It's responsible for a lot of the effects. So a good project consists from materials, the texturing, and mapping. So the way that the texture reacts to light is also very important. The lighting and all the illumination. And of course, illumination is also critically important to a project. So this way here, we can have the material, and we can make it a bit more complex. Okay, make it okay. So we can add some additional details later on, but this for the base is very well. So adding some more texture, some more the little pieces that you kind of come up with wool cloth is something that you'll be doing yourself. And roll one. Okay, so this is how the illumination in our scenes work. You, you seem to see absolutely everything, luckily. So this is quite satisfying. So this you make the material of wool or knitted cloth, knit. And let's look at the next materials. And get to the leather materials. So we're gonna try some crocodile leather, and we're also gonna try to make old leather. So so the simplest material is the simple modern cloth material that we use the modern and the follow here. So, okay, so you can put in a map here. You should also often use a bump for mixed materials, mixed cloth. So when you're making cloth, you should always mix two maps. You can just, if you find the results unsatisfying, even after using diffuse, you can just add one more map. Okay, so if you can't get the needed effects, you can always use the complex texture effect. It does certainly enhance the texture by color here. So all the materials consist of the same kind of a combination of diffuse and Fresnel fallout, and would also mix sometimes with bump. Okay, Atlas here. So it has a bit of glossy and a bit of reflection. And the bed sheet or sheet made with bump with later on. And here is the knitted material there. So I believe knowing these basics, you can probably make almost any possible material. So let's look at leather. So we'll start off with simple leather. All leather materials are built on the same scheme. Diffuse, reflection map. Just to outline the texture and make a bump here. Okay, and displace. So now we're getting the leather. So we can see the bump. And it's not not a strong bump. Let's look at the reflection. And we're getting this kind of material here. So this material can easily be used for some sort of old chairs. And you still get a bit of tiling. Okay, fin 50 by 50. So you're getting the simple map material here. Fresnel. Okay, and you're getting the map here. So I added ordinary reflections besides the map. So lesser here. And the reflection map. So it's hard to get what you want from the material this way. So I added to the whole object, I added the reflection, that is. The blick form. Glossy to 8. Subdivs to 8. And this is how you get the material of the leather, and you get the reflection on the blend set. Okay, so now you want to just to get a glossy kind of glossy cloth material. So let's look at what we have on the diffuse. And we've got a couple of mixes to get a better reflection type, map mixes, that is. Okay, two similar maps are just mixed in two different proportions. The same map is on the bump. Okay, and let's try just activating it and looking what we can get. You can get any color you wish, any Okay. This is the material, light material you can get. So you can also check the bump reflects, and you can hit reflects, and you can get the glossy. And as you see, you can just get a bit of this effect here, the white kind of outline on the edges, the Fresnel outline, I believe. And this does look much like modern leather, and there isn't anything really complicated. So let's try making red leather now. So what has changed. I got them diffuse a different map, the different reflect map, and pretty much everything else is similar. So as you see, 06 and 07. Okay, 08. I just changed it to here. And this what we're and it's not a very complex material. So let's look at it with the bump. It's getting a bit of bump. It's an outlining kind of bump that helps us with the texture and the diffuse texture. Okay, it's very nice, very nice. And the white details here were even very light, so they should be outlined with the bump or reflex rather than the diffuse, because you're going to get a very non-satisfying white effect. This is due to the conflicts of illumination matters. So if you're getting a texture that was made by combining more than one photo that already had its light on the texture, you will get a conflict, and this is why you should use a bump and reflex parameter to get these outlining effects. So here along the map, so you get this kind of map here. I just mixed two colors. That reminds me of this material here. The color a crocodile. The map. So here I have a map of a crocodile skin, and it's mixed with a map on diffuse 50 to 50. Here's the same here. Instance. Let's look at what we get. So you need a good map on the bump in the skin, a good map on the diffuse, and it's best to work for with the reflections. Okay. So you need the material to be very nice and visible. Okay, it's not quite understandable whether it's snake or crocodile skin, but who in the world cares? I do believe it's understandable. So so we're gonna do some experimenting with glassworks later on. So we're gonna need to catch some reflections later on. So if we overdo it, it's going to be too glance, and the glossiness is also sensitive to being glossy. So we should also check that out. So materials and reflects here. So it's all the same, but I've got these 8.9 something on the reflexes. So I also changed the Fresnel reflection to almost 4, and this regime here to the ward. Okay. So because it gives you a more kind of a glancy kind of thing. So this changed to blend. So I turned this down a bit. Okay. These parameters go here. 15. 9.7. So here's the glance here. So it's almost the same that we've seen in the former. So it's quite strict, very deliberate. We don't get an impression that this is some kind of other material with the texture of crocodile skin, the overall feel. So let's just look at how this map looks like. So it does look very nice on the textures. Okay. So let's just get this part done rendering. So as you see, the blick is quite nice. It's not that concentrated. So to get this kind of material here, and it's a bit more glance. Okay. So it's this is a normal kind of skin. Oh, the next material, and a bit more glance and a bit more material. Just imitating different kinds of folds. So if we're making anything with our hands, we can imitate them, imitate the folds with the bump, because when it's a bit more reflective, the bump does do well for that. And if you have wrap on the model, you can do the folds on the bump, and you'll get them outlined due to the reflexes. So let's just put this here. I get this to the bump. Reflect. Okay, I get an overall reflect. Okay. So we'll get this on blend 85 here. Reflect Gaussian 0785. So I want to get more kind of a glance color to it, and just the colors turn to bump. The texture is done by the bump, and it gives us a kind of a light bend feel. So this way, you get a nice material, nice kind of glance leather, and the skin that can be easily used. And you can easily use references Well, I'm sorry. Really depends what kind of references you use, depending on what you are trying to imitate it, what is influencing you, motivating you to choose the factor of your object. Okay, so you can see these folds here that are done through the bump. And so let's just see the material of old skin. So where the geometry was softer, you get this effect here. You see all these bends, all these folds. So let's look at one more material, the material of old leather. And here I have used my favorite blend here, and I've used the maps to highlight some glossiness. And okay. So I got a map on diffuse. So we got the styling, but we don't really have the stitch kind of feel. And here I mixed the map that's on diffuse, but it's colorless. And as a specular map, it turned into a specular from Photoshop that I made. And there's some, it's a bit, it has it's where it's used to have a slightly more complex reflections. Okay. I used the Fresnel reflections because it's after all it's leather. So we had highlight glossiness and reflect glossiness, and has the glossy reflection here. And I did the subs. So this, with this map, this texture, this it's made white. So where it has a scratch, the kind of the upper level is scratched, and it's you get this kind of overly glossy effect. So let's click on further. So we have these effects, and I mix in the maps. I mix the reflex. So I've done this to highlight the texture that we have in the diffuse, and add some details in the material. So as you see, it's a pretty dark map. And in the map, but in a more contrast map, I mixed the object. Okay, paste copy. The black is the upper one. So the blue is the upper one. Okay, so the lower material is completely glassy. So let's just turn this mode on and look how the texture is going. Okay, let's render it. Okay. So we're getting this material, the leather material. And we can turn the lightning, but I'll go fro lightning because it's a bit better, a bit of bump. So reflection. And you're getting the feel that it's like elephant skin. If you just look from here. So from this view, you don't really, so, okay. So you can also add up some after work from while after working. And I'll have to say what happens is the effects always add up. So you might not notice one in particular, but they all add up, and it does a great effect. So any effect like this one here, the one that it's been kind of used, can be enhanced. But this seems fine to me. So here's our bump. So in the light areas, it's not that visible, but where the light falls here, it's a bit different. It's a bit better, and the bump is strongly visible. So here I'll just render a small part, and that will be it for this lesson. So as you see, they all work with the same kind of rules. So while testing, you might find something new for yourself, and you'll just find something nice. So if you discover something, I'll be happy that you discover something new for yourself again. And you should just, first of all, figure out how to use these simple materials. So let's see what we've got as the result. So we're getting this material. It's not quite rendered yet, but you're gonna have to do this all by yourself on your computer. So you have some post-work, after-work stuff. Okay, so you don't really have all that kind of, you don't have any shadows, so it's going to be easy to use in your afterworks, and you can also use it in different interiors. I'll be happy to answer your questions on the forum. So hopefully it's all understandable. I'll just notice that the main ideas of making these samples are quite similar. Thank you, and I'll see you next lesson.